Hi, it's Mari-Liis
and Laura.
We created this podcast for you, a business owner and a marketer who wants to be connected, supported, and inspired.
Because no one wins alone. Thanks for being here, and let's get started.
So we were talking about whether we should do the show in English or in Estonian, and you were kind enough to say we could do it in English, and that's helpful because I don't speak Estonian like at all. And I saw a great meme on Facebook the other day, and the meme said, someone had posted something and their English was improper, and someone said they corrected their English and said, geez, learn English. And the gentleman responded with, you speak English because it's the only language you know. I speak English because it's the only language you know. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was such a great response and comeback. So thank you for speaking English and other languages. Don't you speak like 5 of them?
Well, we have to, because Estonia is very tiny. We only have 1.3 million altogether of us. I know you have bigger cities.
We do. Yeah, I live in a bigger city.
Exactly. So we have to speak languages, to be able to collaborate with other countries. And of course, I'm happy to speak English, but I hope you bear with me here because it's not my first language.
It's like your 4th is what you're saying. It's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you, Terry. Let's do this. So today we will talk about one of my favorite topics because I do believe that miscommunication leads to missed opportunities, and no one wants that, especially in sales and marketing, right? And today we decided with Terry that we will focus on how to approach different personalities in sales and marketing, if I may say so, Terry.
I think that's a good way to say it for sure. Yeah, different personalities, different behavioral types. We're going to take a deep dive into all of that and kind of give you a cheat code for communicating the right way with the people you're communicating with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that. I make my living talking to people every day and building relationships. And oftentimes I meet people, I agree with, but there are also people I disagree with. So I hope what you are going to share with us today may, help us in these, let's say, more complicated or more difficult situations today. But for a starter, Terry, please, share very briefly maybe about your own journey, because not all listeners maybe know you so well.
Yeah, that's good. I like to meet new people, so that works out really, really well. And as an example of that, I've been involved in the business networking space since Frank Egan, who I know is a return champion with your group, since Frank and I first met back in 1996. So I've known Sir Francis of Egan for almost 30 years now.
I was 15 then.
Were you really? Us too. Oh my goodness. But yeah, Frank and I ran a group together that he ended up purchasing and turning into Am Spirit Business Networking here in the States years and years ago, probably almost 25 years ago. And he was a regional director for a period of time, and I was an assistant or an area director underneath him for a couple of years before I moved back up to the Detroit area, and then started my own networking group that took the best of the real world networking that I learned with Frank and the online networking that I learned from LinkedIn groups back in 2004-5 time frame. In 2006, we started Motor City Connect that grew to one of the fastest growing networking organizations in Michigan and beyond. And, my goal has been always to help people find the success they need. And so I channel that into speaking. I do a lot of keynote presentations. I do a lot of executive and leadership coaching. And then I do some training as well. And the training usually consists of mindset, communications, and relationship building. And those are the three areas that I really play with. And a year or so ago, actually 2 years ago, I started really focusing on, we look at personality tests, personality assessments like the Myers-Briggs and the DISC assessment are two of the biggest ones on the planet. And the outputs from them are alphabet soup, right? ENFP. I'm an ENFP. And if you can remember that till the end of this show, I'm going to be really impressed, right? But even remembering it is because I told you wouldn't necessarily figure it out for an extended period of time because there's 16 different piles of alphabet soup. DISC came along and made it a little easier by having just 4 piles of alphabet soup, DISC. But most people can remember what the D stands for. Maybe they got the I, but the S and the C, it's tough, and it makes it difficult to identify those behaviors. So I had this idea. I want to associate personality types with something people recognize. And I started playing around with what would it look like if we could put it to earth, fire, air, and water. These things that people know. And I like made a necklace. This is water with a little turquoise, and this copper up here is fire, and it's all in the yin yang. And I've had that for about 3 years now. And I started building out what the attributes of each of these elements would have, the characteristics that we would be able to recognize. And I was explaining it to a friend of mine one day, and because he asked, "What am I excited about?" And I told him, and he's like, "That's really cool. You must follow Jay Johnson." And I said, "Who's Jay Johnson?" And he said, "Oh, you're going to love this." Jay had created a company called Behavioral Elements, where he had built out the assessment to be able to tell you which of those 4 elements, like the exact same idea, right, with a proven methodology that he's delivered over 30,000 times. He's got all the assessments. He's got training modules, coaching modules, speaking presentations. I was like, yeah, I got to meet this dude like yesterday. And so last fall, it's 7-8 months ago, I became a certified guide with behavioral elements, and I'm super stoked about it. So we're going to talk about the 4 drives of behavior, how they relate to those elements, and most importantly, how marketers, smart, powerful marketers, can leverage that knowledge to market more powerfully.
Wow, that sounds fascinating, and congrats, for having this certificate, or how you call that? I missed
That's
that.
exactly it. Yeah, certified guide. That's me.
Wow. That's great. So please walk us through those 4 elements so we would, so we can understand that, and then we will discuss how it can help us on our marketing journey. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2002, a book was written by a couple of Harvard MBAs who are both professors teaching MBAs at Harvard. The book was called Driven. And the book is a heavily researched, very scholarly book that talks about behavior. And what the authors postulated was that there are 4 primary drivers of behavior. D1, drive 1, is the drive to acquire. In behavioral elements parlance, we call that fire, right? If you're the fire element, you have the drive to acquire. You want to win, right? You're highly competitive. You're going to show up, show out, get things done, and you're going to look for the fastest, most efficient way to get it done. And you may burn some people along the way.
Is this similar to the D on the DISC profile? Because this is what I have learned.
Yes, this is
Okay.
very similar to the D on the DISC profile. And this is the one that most overlaps with DISC. The other ones are a little more challenging and split out to a couple of different sides of the DISC profile. But yes, the drive to acquire and dominance are basically the same. same energy, same kind of people. Yeah, so it fits and maps real well.
So they are all about results, right?
All about results, all
Okay.
about winning, right?
Mm-hmm.
In you know, if you're in a negotiation with someone that is a high fire element,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably going to be a win-lose scenario where they're going to seek to win and they don't care that you lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not a very empathetic group of people, but definitely the type of people that in crisis management, you want someone who is high fire in charge. They are
Mm-hmm.
decisive, they are quick, they will get people moving.
Mm-hmm.
But they also frustrate people because most people can't keep up with their energy or that drive to win.
Mm-hmm.
So people working for a fire leader end up experiencing literal burnout, and not
Mm-hmm.
just because they're fire, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
because they're drivers, hard drivers. But
I understand. I understand, and for me, the way I see them is that they are people who appreciate this, straightforward communication that gets to the point very quickly, and because they don't want to waste their own time and also others' time. And I know that, from the disc, it says that, they always prefer discussions focusing on results rather than, personal matters and building relationship and talking about chit chat, etc. Is it the same here?
it's the same thing. They want to get in
Mm-hmm.
and get done, right? They're the
Okay.
ones that email that comes back and has 5 words in it. That's a fire person,
Okay.
right? It's
Okay.
just get to the point, no fluff. Let's go. Right?
Love that.
It,
Love that.
and they're usually, they're usually the star athlete, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're oftentimes the CEO because they just move up the ladder because that's the result they're looking for, right? Winning.
And one thing I find that is very good, of course, they have several strengths, but I think it's very good because they are very quick decision makers.
Absolutely.
When something needs to be decided, it's not that they are not, micromanaging things.
Well, and that's tied to the idea that they know what the end result is that
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to achieve. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you know what the end result is, it's binary. It either helps me get there or it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if it doesn't, it's a no,
Mm-hmm.
period. And so I think a lot of other elements and a lot of other people aren't as clear as where they're going,
Mm-hmm.
right? As
Mm-hmm.
someone that has this high fire element. They
Mm-hmm.
know what winning looks like. They've already seen it. They've visualized it. They've mapped to it, and they've done the work to get it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
So
great.
it's very good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
Okay.
let me preface this by saying that all of us have all 4 of these drives that we're going to discuss in
Mm-hmm.
varying levels,
Mm-hmm.
and they show up at different times.
Mm-hmm.
We do all have one primary driver,
Mm-hmm.
but our secondary drive could be very, very close in scale to the primary drive. So we
Mm-hmm.
could vacillate between 2 or 3 of these drives at once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The same is with disc. I know that. So, and no one is 100% pure one type. So that's I can relate to that. So tell me about the other elements as well,
Sure.
because you
So
told me they are not so similar to the disc profile. So I'm very interested about them.
right, yeah, they split off a little bit, and you can
Okay.
map them, but again, there's overlap.
Mm-hmm.
So D2 drive 2 is the drive to bond, and in
Bond.
in behavioral elements, we call that water.
Mm.
These are your people, most closely related to I on disc influence, but a little bit different, right? People, the water element are empathetic. They are caring. They are people that want to make harmony happen. They want everybody to win. If you're in a negotiation with a watery person, they're gonna seek a win-win outcome. And they're totally good with that. Totally good with it. They might even seek a win-lose where they lose, or a lose-win, I guess, where they're open to losing if it's going to help you win, right? Because they care so much about other people. When we talk about crisis management, right? If you're in the building and it's on fire, the water person is going to be not only the one that goes around to check to make sure everybody's okay, they're probably going to try and get some sort of quorum on how to exit the building, right? They're going to make sure everybody's voice is heard and the best idea springs up, which means you don't want them in charge of crisis management because they're going to take too long to come to a decision because they're going to collect data from all the different folks there. And we didn't talk about this for fire, and maybe we'll go back and do this for all of them. But if we're trying to communicate with water folks, if we're trying to sway them, we want to talk about how we're bringing people together. We want to talk about community. We want to talk about how it's going to help the betterment of society, right? Because that's their drive. And I mentioned earlier, there's been 30,000 plus assessments taken. Of those 30,000, 50% so half of the people that have been surveyed are water people.
Half,
yeah. So
that's
like
a lot. That's a lot.
Crazy amount considering there's 4 drives. Half of them show up water. And I would have said they're the ones that are most likely to take it, but it's beyond that.
But how many are fire elements?
So in between 15 to 20%.
Okay, 15 to 20. That's crazy. And talking about communication, when we are, coming back to the element fire, I believe it's communicating results, success, money.
Show them how they're going to win.
Yep.
Right? Position. If you're speaking to fire folks, tell them how what you're doing helps them win. Because ultimately, that's the thing that matters most. The drive to acquire. I want more. Right? How do I get more? And if you can explain that clearly to a fire person, you got them. They're in.
I love that. And you mentioned that the water element people are close to I at the disc profile, but it also seems to me that they are very close to relationship oriented, or the greens, so to say, which is also people who are known for the, caring and nurturing, compassionate nature, maybe.
That's it. That's it. And so my second highest element is water, right? So my drive to bond and bring people together and build community is very high, as is yours, right? You may be fire first, but your water is going to be second for sure, if not first. Again, it's not a perfect, they're not the same assessment as DISC, so the results will vary a little bit. But just the idea of wanting everyone to win is a very watery notion. And so it's interesting that drive 2, the drive to bond, and drive 3, the drive to learn, we'll talk about in just a minute, those 2 drives showed up later in human development, right? So the drive to acquire, drive 1, and drive 4, the drive to defend, were early drivers of human behavior. And so social scientists believe that there was a great leap in human evolution, and that great leap happened at the same time that the drive to learn and the drive to bond became so prevalent in how humans show up.
Wow, that's interesting. And just a quick heads up for the listeners here. Terry will also share assessment link later on with all of us, so we can assess ourselves, right?
100%.
Love that.
100%. We don't even
Love.
have to wait till later. We could do it now.
No, no. Let's go over all the elements before that. So you mentioned the number 3 element is strive to learn.
Yes. The drive
Okay.
to learn. So we refer to that as air, right? So the drive to learn is the element of air. And it's right, air people are innovators, abstract thinkers, creative, curious. They're filled with a sense of wonderment. They can come off as totally aloof or airheaded. Airhead's a term I don't know if it translates in Estonia, but they're just kind of like not all there, right? But they're super all there. They're just not there with you now, right? They're thinking about big things. You're talking about the weather, right? And so air people are fun. They're the ones that are changing the world, right? That drive to learn shows up in a bunch of different ways, but they're the readers. They're the ones listening to the podcast. They're the ones taking information, gisting it down, sharing it with other people. They're the ones that are oftentimes the content creators. A lot of times they're marketers, right? So there's probably a few air folks that are listening to this right here, right now. And that's really exciting stuff. My highest element is air. I'm an airhead through and through. And so it's really kind of cool because they conceive the new ideas. They are probably open to a win-win relationship, right? They wanna create space where you're gonna be able to get yours and I'm gonna be able to get mine. Their communication can be a little flighty, right? They may speak over people at times, and that becomes a little bit of a challenge. But if you're trying to engage an air person, you want to give them enough detail so they're not bored, but not so much that they're just like, I'm out, doesn't matter. But you want to show them how they're going to acquire learning, how they're going to acquire growth, right? They don't want to acquire things, right? They're not like, oh, I need a Maserati or I need a mansion. They want to acquire knowledge. They want to acquire the ability to create impact and change.
So I hear they are pretty much like the influenced type on the disc profile, who won excitement and fun and fabulous and fantastic, how to say, situations, because they don't like boring situations and long meetings and hard facts. But still, you mentioned that you need to give them enough facts, right?
Yeah. You need to give them enough information that they believe you're a credible, knowledgeable source, but not so much that they're like, oh, yeah, I got you.
But in your communication style, when you're approaching them, when do you know enough is enough?
Right. You can watch their body language because air people do not hide their emotions very well. Right? As soon as they start looking around or change the subject, you know that they're satisfied. Or you can just ask because they're an open book. Right? They tend to be like fire people are blunt in a sharp, kind of almost aggressive way. Air people are blunt in an almost like not, I'm trying to think of the right word, and it's they're blunt in a, okay, I've had enough, right? I gotcha. And so it's not an ignorant way, but it's a way that's like, I got this, I understand. And they're also the ones that connect and synthesize ideas very quick, right? And so they probably did get it and didn't need the full report, right? They can connect dots very, very fast.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there is a lot of overlap with the I and disc for air people. My disc profile puts me at 99% I, and my behavioral assessment profile has me as highest air. So I know there's overlap there, but there's a little bit of C going on there. And there's a little bit of S going on inside of the air element as well.
I can hear that. So that's why it's very interesting. So we have fire, water, air so far.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one is?
The last one is D4, is the drive to defend. And that is the earth element. And characteristically, earth element types are those linear thinkers, those task managers, those people that start something, finish it, and are done with it, right? And can go from A to Z without interruption, right? Without a lack of focus or concentration. They're also the ones that if you give them the terms of service or the agreement, they're the people that read it, right? Where the rest of us just click accept or maybe look at the headlines or the chapter headings. These people read word for word and understand it. And
But
so,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask if they are the ones who go through all the the feedback you have received before deciding if I want to collaborate with you, and they go through, I don't know, all the Google reviews and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They are information overload, right? So if you're speaking to earth people, the same way you're speaking to fire people, you are not getting any earth people on board ever, right? And if you're speaking to fire people the way you'd speak to earth people, you're done. They don't want anything to do with you, right? Because you're giving them too much information. Earth people need facts, they need case studies, they need lots of detail and lots of social proof, right? And so, and they're going to look at it, they're going to assess it, they're going to challenge it, right? And so, but once you get an earth person on your side, again, the drive to defend, they want to keep the status quo, they don't like change, right? And so they're the ones that are going to argue, well, this is the way we've always done it, right? So, and it's worked so far, we're going to keep doing it this way, even if you shouldn't be doing it that way. They're also the risk managers, right? They are risk averse. And so they're not likely to go out and try new things. But they will if you give them enough evidence that it's safe and that it'll be okay in the end. They'll do it. But you have to provide the intel to them. And they're going to look for it. So if you're communicating with them, get your facts correct, because they will challenge it. And then give them other sources of social proof that other people like it or did it or didn't die from it or whatever, because they need that level of assurance.
There's a lot of good stuff here, Terry, but I was just thinking, when we are in these meetings, we don't know, who we will meet. So give us some ideas how to recognize these people. I don't know, after you have met them, let's say in few minutes, how to understand who is next to you.
I love that. And so the beautiful thing in my mind about why I'm so in love with behavioral elements is because you can quickly assess someone by their language, by
Mm-hmm.
their actions and how they show up. So, for instance, if you're speaking to someone who's fire, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to talk about winning. They're going to talk about competing. They're going to talk about kicking butt, right? They're the ones that are going to be talking about, we got to go to war. We're going into a battle. We got to just kick their ass, right? They're those guys that are fired up, high energy, and pounding the table, and you're a little bit scared. Right? Because they're a little bit unhinged sometimes. They're also, they move fast, they think fast, and so you can kind of, if you're observant, right,
Mm-hmm.
if you're observant, you can start to pick up on these traits.
Okay.
Water people, and I don't know if the hippie movement, well, I don't even know if anybody even remembers what hippies are, right? Again, I'm old.
I do.
But in
I
the
do remember.
in the 60s, it was all peace, love, and harmony, and let's get together and kumbaya and let's dig each other. And that's kind of what water people are.
Mm-hmm.
They are not nearly as intense as fire people. They are definitely, I wanna give you a hug. I want to hold you. They're empathetic. They care, and they
Mm-hmm.
share that in their posture, body language, and actual language. You can hear it. You can see it. Just
Mm-hmm.
how they interact with people, right? They're oftentimes, they can fire all of them. Well, Earth, not so much, but all of them can be, the other three can be the life of a party, but they're going to be a life of a party in different ways, right? Fire people are going to be like, watch me do this, right? And water people are going to be, let's all do this. And air people are going to be off doing something that's so fascinating that everybody's just going to go watch, right? Earth people are probably going to stand in the corner. They're going to be they're going to be the more
Assessing.
yeah, they're going to be the wallflowery type person, observing,
Mm-hmm.
assessing,
Mm-hmm.
taking it all in. And, they probably make the absolute best friends out of all of it, right? Out of all of them. You want Earth in your life. By the way, I told you water was 50% of the population that's been
Yes.
assessed.
Mm-hmm.
Earth is 10%.
10%. Mm-hmm.
So, if for those of you that are looking for a good ops person and can't find one, it's
Mm-hmm.
because there are less of them.
Mm-hmm. And there should be 10 to 20% of air people.
There's 15 to
Okay.
20% are air, 15 to
Yeah.
20% are water. 15 to 20% are fire,
Mm-hmm.
and then and maybe it's 15 to 25, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's right
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
20
I
for
got
both
it. Oh my
air
God.
and fire. Water was 50%, earth is 10%.
10%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have
So
it.
so we got the water people, we got the fire people, how you recognize them. Air people are the ones that are going to talk big ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be the ones that gap out a little bit in conversation, and you're like, where'd you go? Come back here, right? Get with me now. And you probably need to do that once in a while, but they're going to be the ones that are creative and inspired by creativity. They're going to be telling you about the book they read, the podcast they listened to, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
the ones,
Mm-hmm.
again, with the drive to learn comes the drive to share,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's not,
Mm-hmm.
there's no drive to share, so I probably shouldn't use that word, but the interest in sharing, right?
Okay.
Because for them, the point of knowledge is to help others grow, right? So they're accumulating this information so we can all innovate and be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the airy type ideas, right? The big thinkers. And so they are pretty easy to recognize in communication.
Mm-hmm.
And then the earth people are going to be the ones that are a bit more methodical. Again, they're task oriented. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying they think slow, they don't. but they're going to take more time to process the information because they're going to be really detail oriented in how they respond to what you said. And so they're going to take a second to understand it, frame up a response, and then give you the response. Whereas water people may just hug you, right? They're going to hear you. They're going to build community with you, and that's what their mission is. Fire people are going to hear you, argue with you, or agree with you, right? But do it like in an excited fashion and quick. Air people are going to ponder it for a second, and they're going to build on it, right? They're going to take what you said and make it better. And then the earth folks are going to hear, they're going to think about it, process it, bring you a response that may or may not be to your liking. They're very direct and to the point, right? And a bit curt, or they're really long-winded, right? So earth people can, if they're out, and there's not much you're going to do to get them back in, right? Aside from supply them with facts and facts and facts. So it's really kind of, it's neat to see how all four of these play together. If you're in an organization and your culture is not what you want it to be, you need more water people. Right? You need to enhance the water element in your organization, that drive to bond and bring people together. Right? If your sales team isn't winning enough deals, you need to stoke up that fire element. You need to get that drive to acquire to show up. If there's a lot of risk and governance issues in your company, you need more people that are driven to defend and have that earth element, right? And if you're lacking creativity and innovation, stoke up the air. So it really kind of shows up in a lot of different ways. There's an amazing story in the book Driven, talking about General Motors and how General Motors rose to prominence and was the world leader in automotive for 4 or 5 decades. And it shows how they absolutely started to tank and fell off and got beaten by Japanese manufacturers. And the story is the GM entity and the organizations and the companies that they bought were all operating on the drive to acquire. They were all straight fire. And so that meant that they didn't care about their employees as much. They certainly beat the snot out of their suppliers, driving down costs because profit was king, right? They didn't actually do a lot of the quality work that needed to be done, because all of a sudden, what used to be people on the line, on the manufacturing line, had some creative ability to be able to say, hey, we should do this or we should do that. They took all of that away. They said, this is how you do it, right? So people stopped caring, and they didn't do a great job of going back and checking the quality once the vehicle was done. And so quality went down. Japanese manufacturers took a whole different approach. They partnered with their suppliers, right, to create innovation and keep making things better. They focused on employee engagement. They had employees doing exercise together and singing company songs together every single morning, right? So they got this sense of good culture and being together. They gave them job security, saying that if you're here for the life, right? You can be here. Gave them different paths to grow inside the organization. And so it was a really different outcome, that for 40 years, GM was top, and then they were done.
I love that story because it really illustrates for me how, in order to build successful, business, you really need all the different behavioral types. And you need to appreciate these, different people. You can't just have people around you that are just like you, maybe, right? I love that.
That's it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of times leaders will only hire leaders that are like them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't bring out
Exactly.
these 4 different behavioral types that we need to focus on.
I love that. Terry, please tell us, where can we assess ourselves? Because I want to do that test.
I love it. I love it. So the easiest way to do it, okay, the second easiest way to do it, the
Okay.
way I want you to do it, is trybean.com,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
trybean.com, which is also my website, / behavioral elements. So behavioral, all spelled out,
Elements.
elements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the American English version, so no U in
No,
behavioral.
I was
So
just about
just
to ask. Very
yeah,
good.
I'm like, wait a
And
second, I need to clarify. So
we
yeah,
will put
BE,
the, yeah,
we'll put the link in.
yeah, we will put the link in. Don't worry. Don't worry. Just
Yeah, so
make sure
that
to
makes it
send me
easy.
the, yeah, I will try to find it myself, but you can also send it to me just in case.
I'll send it to you because I want things to be easy for you. And then on the flip side, I've got this special offer going because I'm doing an
Mm-hmm.
event for people in a career shift
Okay.
on Saturday. And the organizer said, make an offer, do something nice for people. All right, fair. And so we've got the pro version of the assessment. There's the free version. In the
Mm-hmm.
free version is going to tell you what your primary element is, and
Mm-hmm.
then give you some information about how that element shows up and talk about the other drivers. And so there's a 6-page report you get on the free version. On
Mm-hmm.
the pro version, it shows you all 4 elements and how they show up in your life, right? And what percentage you are in each of
Mm-hmm.
them. And then it gives you a 27-page document that talks about how to communicate with each, how to
Mm.
lead people that are each, how to deal with conflict between each, right? So it gives you a really nice report that the earth people are going to read every single word of,
That's good.
and, and the fire people might skim through. So it's
But
kind
still,
of,
it's interesting.
it is. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I like it because not only do you get to learn about you, which,
Mm-hmm.
listen, if you're on a journey of self growth,
Mm-hmm.
assessing yourself and figuring out who you are really should be step one. Whether
Of
you use
course.
this assessment or others doesn't matter. That's step one. Know who you are. And then what you can do is you can take that learning and apply it to the people you deal with, whether it's friends or colleagues or future clients or your spouse or kids. It
Mm-hmm.
becomes very, very valuable for that perspective. So the special offer is for $99 American dollars, you're going to get the pro assessment, that 27-page results, and a 30-minute coaching session where I will give you the analysis very succinctly of what you should learn from this,
Mm-hmm.
and then talk about your specific situation and how you want to apply this learning in your life. And you
Mm-hmm.
can find that at trybean.com/BE session. So
BE session.
BE session. So we'll make sure that both of those links
Mm-hmm.
are in
Next to
this
this.
little thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And so we'll go from there, and it'll be super cool. You'll love it. And, as an added bonus, you get to spend like a half hour with me, and I'm super fun. Just ask me, I'll tell you.
He is, I know for sure that. So thank you so much. I just love, everything you do. And I want to do this assessment. And before we wrap it up here for today, please share a song and a quote with us, because we need that also to our Spotify
Yeah,
list.
I
Inspire
love it.
us.
I love it. So you said before we hopped on an inspiring song.
Yep.
And so a band that I found a couple of years ago on New Year's Day is called Revolution. REBULOTION. TION,
Mm-hmm.
revolution. Yeah, something like that. And the song is Fade Away.
Fade away.
And I think it's just so beautiful, and so poetic. So I really dig the melodic nature of it, and just the lyrics of it. And they've also got a song called Good Vibes. And like, who doesn't want good vibes? They got kind of a
Exactly.
California reggae style to them. So it's cool. And then the quote, and it's one that I use often. It's very simple. It is leave people better than you found them. And I try and do that in every single interaction, whether talking to the clerk at the gas station or whether it's with clients or with friends. Just help, be of
Mm-hmm.
service. That's what we're here for.
That is so strong and so powerful. Thank you, Terry, so much. I really do appreciate you.
You're awesome. And definitely leave that first part of the conversation in before we
I
actually
will.
get started.
I will. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Awesome. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for having me.
Likewise. No one wins alone. Be connected, supported, and inspired inside the powerful marketers community.
Find the link in the show notes.